Why does Spider-Man 2 lack innovation? And why should you care? The game has been out for over 2 weeks now, and just like many of you, I've been pushing aside my responsibilities in favor of swinging around New York in a tight spandex. You know, when I'm not riding a bike, taking out the trash, or God forbid solve a puzzle in this game.
Hey, when you were walking around, did you have a chance to feed the fish?
Yes, that was so great.
Please be aware, I do talk about spoilers in this video, so I suggest playing the game before watching this. Now, despite the impression my intro might have made, I am mostly quite happy with the game, but I can't help but see the exact same pattern here is in almost all other blockbuster Sony exclusives. It is something that some people call the safe sequel syndrome. Just a year ago I had the same thoughts running through my mind as I was playing God of War Ragnarok. The game was great, but for the most part it pretty much felt like its predecessor. With time, the lack of innovation in these titles is more and more noticeable, and Sony just seems to stick to what works best for them. And can you really blame them for this, considering they basically have no competition out there?
You need an interpreter? It's time to go to school.
You will lose.
Come on, it doesn't take a smart man to see that the overall gaming industry is stuck doing the same things over and over again for the past decade. Looking outside of Sony, we can take a look at two examples, one good, one bad. First is Rockstar. They use the same old formula they always have, and I love their games regardless. Their games are very immersive, they are very well written, and the level of detail inside them is unmatched by anything else. To this day, no other developer can come close to the overall sandbox experience their games provide. For the other more negative example, I will give Bethesda Game Studios. They too use the same old formula they always have, but unlike Rockstar, they don't seem to know where to draw the line.
Sorry. Right. Later.
Starfield is the space pilot slash explorer slash RPG slash action adventure slash. They try to do too much without really going all the way on any of those aspects. And while I think there was an attempt at some innovation, their desire to appeal to everybody cost them in the end. But this is a topic for another video, which I will leave for a later date. For now, let's get back to Sony and Spider-Man. I actually held a little experiment for this video, where I gathered some friends to play the game. Two of them had never played the first game, and two have. One loving it, and the other not so much.
He never liked Spider-Man, so...
I don't fucking like Spider-Man.
You don't like Spider-Man?
I don't like Spider-Man.
Why are you here?
We need one more opinion.
Yeah,
We need a negative guy.
yeah.
Mr. Negative right
He's
here.
gonna be our...
I'm
Okay.
not negative, I just don't like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Wait, do you like Venom?
Yes.
Venom is in this game.
Fuck Venom, man.
The goal of this little exercise was simple. Inviting people in my friend circle usually means I get free food and someone to play and record a game for me while I'm eating. Plus, they have opinions and thoughts and all that, I guess. Jokes aside, discussing this with a wide variety of people really did help put things into perspective. So much so that I plan on uploading the discussions at full length in the coming days after this video is released. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Gameplay wise, the biggest Spider-Man fan among us got the hang of things straight away, while the newbies initially had a very hard time.
Punch it hard.
Don't drop it, okay?
Just don't break my controller now.
No, you just
You can just press the X.
Okay.
Although, to be completely fair, this is also the first time some of them used the DualSense controller, so yeah. What made a notable impression on me is how fast people got used to the gameplay. Although they died repeatedly at the start of their gameplay session, it didn't take them too long to get used to the flow of combat.
The enemy can't know what you're gonna do if you don't know what you're gonna do, bro. At least you're gonna learn the
That's like he's slowly getting down like an escalator. Okay, I might have exaggerated about how fast they got used to it. Regardless, the gameplay is fun and the controls for the most part feel just like the first game. Dare I say, it feels a bit too familiar. I'd say the combat can be either very fun or very boring, and that really depends on what you enjoy. I personally find the boss fights quite entertaining overall, but when it comes to the goons, it does have a very repeatable nature. You punch and dodge and wait for your ability to recharge, that's it.
I think that like the punches and everything is really repeatable. Like everything is repeating a lot.
Yeah,
But
it's not
overall,
a lot of variety.
yeah, not it's the same movement. Like for a guy that's playing it, like honestly, that's playing it for the first time. I've watched you play in the previous one, and like I don't see much of a difference in the mechanics of the game or in the fighting style.
No, it's overall almost the same. It's really identical, but if you look on the fighting styles and the swinging mechanics, if you give it a little bit more time, if you play for like 2-3 hours more or something like this, you're going to notice stuff like this, especially if you have played the previous games.
Yeah, probably I will start with the first one. I will go to the
So,
second
so
one.
after playing this short part of the second game, you'd actually go back and play the first one.
Yeah, I will probably directly go and play the first one for sure.
Okay. But as you can see, the quote-unquote repeatable nature of the game didn't really stop them from enjoying it. Next I want to touch on Immersion. I think this game and Sony exclusives in general really shine in this department. The supreme quality in graphics and animations, on top of the amazing cinematics and good writing, really pull you in to make you feel like our favorite web swinger in this case.
Yeah. No. Ooh.
And this is why I gave you. We're wasting time. Just go play the game.
We are playing the game. We're giving an interview.
I'm on TV! Oh shit! First cops, now this? Oh man, I'm be a star, son!
Some of us might have been a bit too immersed. Next I want to touch on the writing and the cinematic approach displayed in this game.
For me, it's all about the story. And if I haven't played the games before, I think I can get pretty much everything from this game. Because everything's in there and I can
Probably.
understand it, right?
He watches the gameplay on the internet.
Yeah, I enjoy it more watching it sometimes than playing it. So
You know, that's the thing about Sony games, is a lot of the time watching it might actually be better than playing it.
Because of the storyline.
Yeah.
Because
really
it's a
good,
storyline,
yeah, and you
like
can follow it.
Sony has a tendency to focus a lot on stories and making the game feel cinematic.
Actually,
And
yeah.
and all of their games are like this. Like if you God of War 1, the original, not like the remake
yeah,
with the North, and the second one is basically the same game, with
Yeah, exactly.
but just bigger. And this is the same thing here. Like they don't really innovate much because they're so far ahead of Microsoft, they don't need to. But it can in the long term like cause some problems because games are not movies.
yeah.
That's my opinion. So you have a good point about you enjoy more watching
Yeah.
than playing.
Because like the story and like everything that happens with the characters is it's interesting just to watch it. Like
Just a quick side note here, I really love Sony's focus on making these single-player cinematic experiences. I just hope we see them double down on making different types of single-player games, as they have some of the best studios around. I would be very happy to see them attempt to make an RPG-focused experience, mixed in with the quality writing and cinematics they're known for. Or a very action-focused game like Doom Eternal, where they solely focus on gameplay mechanics, etc. Okay, now let's get back to the writing in Spider-Man 2. Now, I will be honest and say that while this game had its moments, and the writing here is good, its prequel did an overall better job in this department. I like the way they portrayed Carrie's and Pete's relationship in this. It is somewhat reminiscent of that between Pete and Dr. Octavius in the last game. In both games, one of the closest people to Pete ends up being a villain that he needs to take down. This is something that tends to repeat in Spider-Man stories. A lot of his villains are actually Pete's close friends, mentors, etc. I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of people relate to Spider-Man and get invested in his stories. Having the villains be so close to our hero make for a more personal and emotional story overall. You aren't just fighting a big bad because he's trying to take over the world. No, you're fighting your closest childhood friend, in this case because he's trying to take over the world.
We're going to heal everyone.
Huh. No matter how you slice it, the symbiote is a much more straightforward character and villain, especially in comparison to Dr. Octavius. That doesn't mean I dislike Venom and the Darkseid Peter Parker here though. I think this might be my favorite take of Venom since... you know who.
Look at little Goblin Jr. Gonna cry?
That's just hard to beat, dare I say impossible.
See you, chump.
Pushing that aside, I will briefly touch on Miles, just like the game did. Seriously, he's very underused in the main story considering he's a playable character and, I don't know, on the cover of the game. Instead, Insomniac chose to give him a different plotline, of which, honestly, nothing stands out apart of his lust for revenge over Lee. That's a shame as I see some missed opportunities here. We could have had more scenes between him, Pete and Harry, for example. That would have made the final confrontation quite a bit better in my eyes, pushing the whole idea of jealousy they went for in a throwaway line at the end.
You were jealous. That's why you pushed us apart.
Maybe I was, but Pete wasn't Pete.
Anyway, moving on from story, the last thing I want to mention is MJ, the pacing and the open world. My. Just like in the last game, whenever we get to play as MJ, nobody's happy.
Okay, nice, I like it. Seriously? Seriously? Oh shit, I almost fucked that up. How can this fucking taser stop Venom?
At least they made her a bit more fun to play here, this time around with her little gun, but honestly, the way she handles herself with the hunters makes the villains feel more incompetent more than anything else. Thankfully there isn't too much of that, so my complaining ends here. You know what there's plenty of, however? Throwaway filler activities spread around the map. Again. That was probably the weakest part of the first game, and it makes a return here. These activities, this map, this zoo,
this prison, this reality, whatever you want to call it, I can't stand it any longer.
These are just as boring as the last game, honestly. Now, to be fair, there are a few side quests that actually feel like good content. Like, for example, the quest involving the Flame Fanatics. But, other than those few side quests, nothing really sticks out. Having recently played Cyberpunk's DLC, comparing the open world activities in these two titles is... ugh. Okay, let's move on to the pacing. What can I say about the pacing? It's bad. Even if we look past the minigames which constantly interrupt gameplay, it's hard to look past the walking simulator missions, which honestly just bored me to death. Seriously, like, 1 minute we're swinging around the city fighting bad guys, the next we're just walking down a hallway or, I don't know, throwing out the trash. So what's the reason for this? Well, I think it's the writing. Which, as I mentioned earlier, isn't bad, but I don't think it just meshes very well with the game design. What do I mean by this? Well, I think the issue is that the game revolves too much around its story and writing, and you might say, well, yeah, duh, of course it's gonna revolve around the story. That makes perfect sense. But games also have game design involved, which is just as important as writing. The writing here has a structure very similar to that of a movie. But good video game writing isn't the same as that in movies, at least it shouldn't be. In movies, the scriptwriters only account for cinematography, editing and directing, not gameplay. Here, it felt like gameplay was an afterthought slapped in between the movie. And these gameplay sequences where we play as Peter, Miles, etc. were just an attempt to remedy that, in a way. But in all honesty, it would have been better if they just left these scenes as, well, cutscenes, and instead just cut the game short and have us only play as Spider-Man throughout the game. This is just a side effect of the game trying so hard to be cinematic.
I didn't know there were bears in these woods.
Regardless, I think Spider-Man 2 is a very good game that plays it very safe, just like God of War Ragnarok before it. The title doesn't offer much innovation, it doesn't feel like a brand new take on Spider-Man, but I guess nobody really expected that from the game anyway. With this title, Insomniac delivers a good story with great set pieces throughout its runtime. We had a lot of fun playing this, and looking back, some events in the game really left a mark. It's the moment.
It's the moment of truth.
Canto Papa.
Precious.
Yeah, he looks terrifying.
Oh, you play Venom?
Oh, wow!
Oh shit!
Mother, I did the hard parts.
To wrap things up, I really hope that this is the last game released by PlayStation where a next-gen title doesn't quite feel, well, next-gen. Spider-Man 2 is a fun game that is a worthy sequel of the original, even if it plays it safe and doesn't really innovate in any way. In all seriousness here, I really think it's time for game developers in general to make some changes and take more risks, both in terms of storytelling and themes and in gameplay and mechanics. Yeah, I know I'm not exactly saying something original here, but still, It's kinda sad that two of the best games released this year are remakes of older titles. But we will talk more about this in the next video. And how about you? How do you feel about Spider-Man 2, Sony, PlayStation, and the overall gaming industry? I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. We always reply, so yeah. Until next time, have a good one.